All right, going live. All right, you guys can talk if you want to because we should be live now.
We can't hear you, Chris.
Hey, John, can you talk? Make sure we can
Yeah.
hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we are
Okay.
on
Yeah.
YouTube Live trying to do this remote recording because I'm sick. And welcome to Through a Therapist Eyes, as Chris now all of a sudden can't work his audio.
So
Still
we're gonna
nothing
have a
from Chris.
mutiny. Let's have a mutiny. I'm wired so everybody can hear me.
Yeah,
'Cause
can y'all hear me?
yeah, I can hear you, Victoria.
Hi, John.
Hey, we're gonna,
We've been sitting here talking for an hour and everything went great. And then all of a sudden, Chris just disconnects his
uh
audio.
so
Well,
we,
it happened as soon as you pressed the record button, Neil, I think.
that's interesting. Yeah.
That's really weird. Hey, let me stop that. See how it's going. Let's see Chris's phone. Go ahead and talk, Chris.
Nope.
No audio from him.
No. Okay. I'm working out on the messages. Maybe Chris can type or something.
His network is struggling.
Oh, Lord.
Oh Lord, won't you guide me?
That's not where I was going.
I know.
I was going to How Great Thou Art.
Oh, we're, we're still good day.
All right. What do
There's
we
a
got going on,
version.
Chris? Welcome to.
Welcome to virtual. Is Chris going to have to get out and then get back in like I did?
And
I
I
would
wonder if
hope
Chris
not, but
could
that's
be
really weird that
wired.
he all of a sudden had a major issue.
Maybe if he went wired or something. Like,
Bear with us, YouTube Live, as we figure out our technical
well,
difficulties.
I
Wait,
hope everybody in YouTube land are doing well. Listen,
are we still on YouTube even though you're
yeah,
not recording for an episode, I guess?
Yeah, YouTube is separate, so
Oh.
we are still on YouTube.
okay.
So
Well,
just beware of that.
Thanks, Neil, for the heads up.
I don't want to step on the boss's toes or anything. So
Yeah.
about what he wants to talk about. So let's talk about our favorite
All right.
subject.
Is that better?
Yeah, there we
He's
go.
I
there.
can hear you. Yay.
Dang, man. Golly, I'm so sorry, everybody in the world. Didn't do anything to my phone. I didn't do anything to my speaker. I didn't touch anything. I didn't do anything. I don't understand. Gosh. All right. So that was about, what, 5 minutes of nonsense watching. We've just lost all of our listeners, all of our subscribers, and everybody. I'm sorry. It's my fault.
Now,
So, how far are we into
Uh,
this live? Did you entertain them when I was gone?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
we did. We did a
yeah,
great job.
we did. We were going to step on your toes and steal your thunder, but we didn't.
Oh dear. I don't have thunder right now. You can't even hear me half the time. Anyway, okay, well, let's get this going. This is kind of cool. It's new for us. We're doing I don't know what the guys told you while I was in my little virtual world of pain. This is new for us. We're doing a squadcast episode for the first time where we're at our homes. I guess it's kind of cool. Victoria's at her office. You can just see her real office. You get to see my home. I got my project of the floor. I did the
You
floor. Very
did
happy
did a
about
good
that.
job. Did a great
Yeah, yeah.
job.
Thank you. Actually, I'm proud about how that went into the door jamb, the floor cutting. That was, measuring and cutting lumber and anything wood is not exactly my forte. But we're gonna fire up with the radio here in a second. This is totally behind the scenes this time, that's for sure, because I don't know. We're getting our feet wet with this online deal. So we are going to be talking about the holidays. Why are the holidays hard? The cures. A major list of all of the things that you hear people mentioning, but not really being detailed on in so far as the what really does make the holidays hard. So we hear them all the time in our offices. So we just thought we'd talk about them today in the middle of the holidays, given that this is December the 21st. So I guess
It's
what the
the
heck, man?
it's the it is the winter solstice
It
today.
has
It is
turned
the
winter
first.
today.
It's the
Yes, it's
first
today.
day of winter.
And
Very
did you know
cool.
my 8-year-old client that I had yesterday, she told me, I asked her when it was we were talking about winter, and she goes, it's not winter yet because the winter solstice hasn't happened.
Oh my goodness, precocious.
And
Who
I was
says
like,
this?
I have an 8-year-old client who I saw yesterday, and that's
That's
what
a
she told
smart
me. And I was
kiddo.
like, you're so smart. And so then we asked Siri when the winter solstice was, and that's how we figured it out. It was today.
Cass says measure twice, cut once. Hello, Cass. Yeah, measure twice, cut once. It's good advice. I thought she was making a comment about my
Hey, Cass.
audio.
Yeah.
Jeez. So, all right, Neil. I guess we're ready.
Chris, I think I have to jump back in because I think I tried to do the recording through Squadcast. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
What about the other two? And
I guess it's just the Neil and John show right
it is
now
just
with
Neil and
Cass.
John. You
Yeah,
guys got
with
nothing? Okay.
no. This is I know this is frustrating,
Well, it's really weird
but
with their two systems. Can you two hear me?
yeah.
So we can't hear you, Chris. Victoria, can you hear anything? You're
Yeah, talking to you.
you guys have to leave and come back.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, it's just you and me, and
Yeah, I
uh,
wanted to try to see because Squadcast has a thing that does allow us to record separate with the stuff that it does,
mhm,
and that seems to be freaking out
mhm,
Victoria and Chris's stuff. So I am not going to be doing the recording with Squadcast this time unless we get more
mhm.
different testing because obviously their phones they don't like it once I turn that on. So
I
yeah,
wonder if they have iPhones.
they have
Okay,
iPhones.
Do you think?
yeah, can you
Yes,
hear
All
me?
right.
Yep,
we're all on.
we are not gonna record with Squadcast to get the high quality recordings. We'll just go with old school OBS with the stuff we have, so we can just go ahead and start it. Because yeah, for whatever reason, when I click record on Squadcast to get like high quality videos from you guys, it just basically freaks out your guys' audio for some weird reason. So let's
Yeah,
just
my like
avoid that.
headphones went out when you started
Uh-huh.
recording.
Yeah, that was weird. So we'll troubleshoot that, but let's go ahead and Chris, I'll start recording here and do my 3, 2, 1 countdown, and then you can just go ahead and start it. So, all right, ready to go?
All right, let's go.
All right,
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes on December the 21st. We are currently in an adventure. If you're trying to find us on YouTube Live, Neil, I don't even know if they got us on YouTube Live. This is kind of adventurous because we're doing something new with a platform that allows us to sort of Skype in. So John is with us. John, can you
Yes,
hear me and can you
yes,
see me?
I can. Can you hear me? Can you see me, Tommy? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're on.
good,
It's the
baby.
winter solstice today.
That's what you said. Victoria's
Yeah.
8-year-old client informed us of that. So, what do you think, Victoria? Can you hear us and see us?
I can do all those things.
I got to do it just once.
Y'all, he's
She
clapping
doesn't.
his hands, and in my headphones. It is so loud. It sounds like he's in my eardrum
I'm
clapping his
so
hands.
sorry. But we got to have fun in the holidays, right? We got
That's
to have fun
right.
in the holidays. So we are talking about the why are the holidays hard and really the cures because people see this all the time, right? We talk about, oh, the holidays are so hard. People can really easily agree to that. They can easily say, like, yeah, that's the case. And then it's like, well, wait a minute, what really do people mean by that? And I don't think that people have a good understanding. So I just sat down, brainstormed, and thought of a whole list of things. And I'd be curious to think, John and Victoria, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Like just a list is all we want to start out with. I had the advantage of thinking about this in advance. I'm gonna forewarn you. I went all the way through the alphabet.
Oh my goodness.
You can't look at the list. John hasn't seen the list yet. So anyway, so this is Through a Therapist's Eyes. Like I said, on December the 21st, we have where you get insights directly in your car and your home, and through a panel of therapists. And it's not the delivery of therapy services in any way, Victoria likes to remind me. We have the book Through a Therapist's Eyes. Number 2 coming out sometime in 2024. That's going to be cool, on marriage. We have the subscribe and click button. Help us out with YouTube specifically. We're trying to get 1,000 subscribers, so we need those subscribers.
We need a 5-star
Five
rating.
stars.
5-star
John's got his
rating.
hand up.
Yeah.
5 stars.
Yeah.
So contact at throughatherapisteyes.com. Look, we're endeavoring to figure this out together, not just the human experience today, but also the internet.
Yes.
It's kind of fun, John. I was thinking of a podcast that we like that does routinely log in like this. It's like totally behind the scenes on the YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really do. Yeah, I'm recording it right for this week, so as I drive down to Florida, I can listen to the recording. So,
oh, good. There you go.
Yeah.
It's. I've gotten used to listening to ourselves doing the transcriptions that we do online. Last but not least, Victoria walks into the office and she's like, "Oh my God, turn." Last but not least, a mention to our sponsor. Our sponsor is First Horizon Bank. We're very grateful in the latter part of 2023 to have them aboard sponsoring the show, helping us out. We will be having them go into the new year in 2024, and we just appreciate them coming alongside of us with the passion that they have for people that we share with them. They in banking needs, us in mental health and substance abuse concern.
Yeah, they have over 400.
First Horizon Bank, we appreciate you. Check them out.
They have over 400.
Go ahead, John.
They have over 400 locations spread throughout. So I think they're very accessible. They're all a hometown bank, and yet
Victoria,
have
where are they centered? Did we learn where their headquarters are?
It was is it Memphis? No,
I think it's Memphis. Yeah.
Memphis, Tennessee, right? Yeah.
Yes. First Horizon Bank, check them out, guys. So let's get to what we're talking about today. The 3 questions I say, really, are the holidays hard for you? And do you know how to overcome the challenges? I mean, those are just basic questions that, obviously, in the way that this show is framed, for you to really think about. And then it was interesting for me to think about, guys, have the holidays always been hard for you? And part of what we'll get into talking about, that I had an interesting thought, that kids likely are going to answer that question no. And so the curiosity that I have is what happens to us adults, where we all kind of know universally, they really are. So I thought we'd spend a little bit of time, getting to that. I'm going to do a reveal. John can decide to do a reveal, and Victoria can decide to do a reveal if you want to. If you don't, that's fine too. But for me, I wanted to.
He must have angered the gods.
What happens that makes the holidays hard, right?
Yeah.
Cracking up on YouTube. Sorry, I know. What can I say?
Hey, check your audio, Chris. Your audio is kind of weird. We can hear you, but I think your earpods are disconnected.
AirPods are disconnected.
What were you doing? Did you touch your phone, or did it?
Could they?
On sound?
Do they need to be recharged? I'll tell you what makes the holidays hard for me. Technical difficulty.
Should I just log out and log back in, for crying out loud?
Yeah. You can try to see if your earbuds, because I think your earpods just disconnected.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, that's better.
Came back on.
he went off again.
It came back on.
There we go.
Just, okay.
Back to my personal reveal after technical difficulties. Oh, amateurs, John. These freaking amateurs, right?
hmm Definitely. That's why I'm wired. Can't mess that up.
He's so calm under pressure. No, for me, one of the things that I've always felt the strain and stress for, and I think everyone's experience is really different, but I wanted to kind of reveal that in a way that, all back to when Christopher was a little Christopher. And the reality was I had experienced the divorce. I've kind of talked about that before. So, I had the experience as a young child, 10, 11 years old of like, okay, what's going to happen here? Dad's house? Am I going to mom's house? When do I get to dad's? When do I get to mom's? It was just like, wow, that angst that they had about their kids in the holidays just kind of poured out onto me. And then, goodness bless it, I got married, and then, you experience, triple decker, dad's house and then mom's house and then the in-laws. And it's just like, dang. So it's like, having to be in multiple places to please multiple people just kind of drove me crazy. And then like, travel, and the grandkids came into the picture. So it there's a lot of reasons why I've kind of carried the main advice during the holidays of really being careful of meeting your own expectations rather than the expectations of everyone else. So it comes from personal experience in that regard, but also the experiences just personally over the years that I've experienced that. So I don't know if you guys want to mention anything about what makes the holidays hard for you or not, but I wanted to kind of throw that out there just as a little bit of an example. Do you guys have opening thoughts about what makes the holidays hard besides technical difficulties with computers?
hmm
I think for me, I agree with what you said. With even though my parents haven't gone through a divorce, once the whole getting married part, and like then splitting your time between two families, and then when you add like grandkids into that, and then or like great grandkids, how difficult that is to like drive around North and South Carolina for me, like
Yeah.
on holidays. And then also, I think um, it's like grief and loss and death, like that. I mean, I know that's probably so obvious, but like those things coming into play when you realize that those people aren't around for the holidays anymore.
Right. Gotcha. Absolutely. I think a lot of people share that in common. John, what are your opening salvos for,
Well,
what makes the
this is
holidays
interesting
hard?
because Victoria said about losing loved ones that is sort of a snapshot of the past of seeing your loved ones as they decline and get older and then they pass. And and so there's a little bit of sadness there. But my sense of it is that I had a very happy childhood. But we moved when I was 10 years old down to Florida, and went from southeastern Kentucky, and it's a very poor area, southeastern Kentucky, but all my relatives were there, and Christmas was so special. They would have, and it always seemed like it snowed, and it always seemed like, and of course it didn't, but it just was that memory of all the relatives coming in. My grandfather was a country doctor, and he had this huge old house, and he would have a gathering of all the families of all his children. He had 7 children. And so the house was full of like 50 grandchildren and spouses and great grandchildren. And it was just a wonderful time. Moved to Florida, and I was so homesick, and I could count the days literally beginning in September for Christmas to come down. And then I noticed that as I was getting closer and closer to Christmas, this was by the time I was 12, 13 years old, um, and looking forward to going and driving up to Kentucky, is that I had this sense of ennui. It was a sense of sadness because I knew that once I got up there, then that joyful time would be ending, and we would start the new year. And so that was kind of a sad time for us. And so I didn't mean to go off on that, but it was just such a magnificent time with the family and the pies and the turkey and the ham and the duck and the goose. I mean, I'm adding things
The
there.
duck and the goose?
And the oysters. So it was just
Wow.
absolutely
Love it.
fantastic. And then go back to Florida, and it's 80 degrees, and it wasn't Christmas anymore. Obviously, it was over, but
It was
it,
definitely weird. Yeah, I felt weird being my first Christmas in Florida actually,
uh,
was
yeah.
odd. It was like it's so warm and all the lights are on and stuff. I mean, I just think there's some difference that people experience. And so real quick before we get to our list, and I guess I wanted to say off the front end, and I got this, my mind got to like my audio and stuff. Like, it is curious to me along the lines of what we just shared for our own experiences. And thanks, guys, because that was unprompted and genuine in the moment. Like, I think it's fair to say that kids will say pretty universally, no, the holidays are great. Love them. Can't wait for them pretty all the
Hmm.
time. But adults don't. And I think that's like almost universal. First of all, do y'all agree with me? And what are your supposition as to why that might be the case? It just doing this show prep that made me curious.
Well, I mean, kids are resilient, first of all. So, like, when things happen, they bounce back a lot quicker and a lot more effectively than adults do.
Do you feel
Um,
like, I'm sorry,
no, go ahead.
do you feel like when they start hitting adolescence, that's when there's the hormones, the mood changes, and so you get the ennui? I mean, and I use that term again, but that sense of just you're happy, but you're also sad. There's a sense of emptiness and loneliness that might happen to an adolescent, and as they get older, and then when one is in college and young adulthood, there may be problems with a sense of isolation.
It's interesting, John. I think you might be onto something, and I want to get on to thinking about our list because I think we could really ponder this for a while.
Hmm.
But what I hear you saying is there are really developmental milestones, different experiences, and
Hmm.
as you go from a little kiddo with all of the magic going to a young adult, the magic is kind of gone, and then as an adult, it's kind of like, well, okay, what are we supposed to do here? So it definitely changes as you go along with what your brain
Well, that's
development
right. And
almost
then
is
you
what it
change
sounds like.
that childhood where you're like in middle childhood or late childhood. There's still even that expectancy of Santa Claus, and then you don't have that anymore. The magic seems to
Yeah,
go.
people
Yeah.
are really, really sad, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, when we talked about the Santa Claus and how to deal with that issue. And it just, it does come back to my mind that becomes so super important. Let me put both of you guys on the spot. We deal with this all the time, and I wanted to say this on the front end. I forgot about it again. This is a little bit of a morbid show. You might think, what makes the holidays hard? But it's something that we need to deal with because it's something that a lot, a
Uh,
lot of people are
you
really
mean Santa
experiencing.
got run over by a reindeer?
You got to sing it now.
Santa I can't sing it, but
Yeah, I
uh,
guess so.
yeah.
And so we want to talk about the cures, though. We want to talk about like how to have an uplifting kind of beat here, but we also have to be realistic about what really people struggle with. So that being said, John and Victoria, like, what are the things that you deal with in your office? What do you think specifically sort of makes things hard? John, I'm curious to go to you because you haven't seen the list I played with. I'm actually going to read the list, and I actually just want to go through and figure out like what do
Well,
we tell people, right?
well, you're asking me what some of the negative things that are going on with people
Right.
for Christmas.
What
Well,
is the
I
true
have,
reality of what makes it hard?
I think there is with some, there's a sense, especially with people that are divorced or separated from their partners. They're separated from their partners, they're separated from their children. They get very despondent sometimes. And I've had clients that engaged in a lot of drinking and all that does is just kind of jack up the cycle of depression. And so I get that. I mostly deal with adults, not so many like young people, but most of it would be that sense of real loss that they've had, and that they had something, and that there was an idealization of how things were when they were together as a family. And so, what do you think?
Absolutely. Okay. Victoria, what would you be like your top five list? If you guys come up with something I didn't have, I'm going to be shocked.
I would say when it comes to kids or like young teenagers, mainly it's when their parents are divorced, or like I said earlier, grief, loss, death, those types of things. Uh, I think sometimes just the expectations that come with the holidays can be kind of hard for people to manage, and then people spiral,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and
You know,
then
it's
they end
funny.
up in my office.
One of my early claim to fame moments, I actually got like a TV spot interview, right? And it was talking about the holiday blues. And, I don't know if you ever done news stuff, but I've been on the news, and it's
Mhm.
like, they come in, interview, you got this camera, and they have this conversation. It's like this 20-minute production, and then you get like a couple of clips. And so, I
Yeah.
watched it on the news, and I'm like, oh wow, they cut out so much, but that's fine, because the one thing that they got was really, really important. How do you manage the holiday blues? And Victoria, you just kind of touched on it, as where I touched on it, where you get caught into a spiral downward trend when you really try to meet the expectations of others instead of meeting your own expectations. And I think that's a huge piece of what
Hmm.
creates distress, right? Listen to this list, right? So I used almost all the letters. I'm just going to read them, and I don't want to go down and talk about them with real solutions. So
So,
these are real
is this going to
issues.
be when we didn't start the fire? Are you going to be doing that? Sort of like the Billy Joel song, "We didn't start the fire," and so you're going to do the list? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. Sorry.
That's. I hope that you're going back on a
I,
on a musical theme there, John. I don't know.
yeah, I know.
I do know the song. Victoria, do you know the song?
Uh, yeah, because I'm pretty sure Fallout Boy redid it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
She knows the redo.
Uh,
Real issues, real solutions. Addiction and relapse,
mhm.
depression, social phobia, new family experiences with newlyweds, blended family issues. What happens in hospitals? Sicknesses don't plan the date, right? Mental health hospitals, just the same. Travel stress, financial distress, grief and prior loss, military families, weight distress, relationship estrangements, divorce, new empty nests, religious persecution. How about that one, right?
Mhm.
Caretaking role, elder care when they're in nursing homes, untimely accidents, trauma effects, especially with family, domestic violence, unemployment. I actually started to struggle at this point. I wanted to get all the letters. Letter X, if you're counting the alphabet, is actually a war. How about war in the holidays that we have around the world,
Mhm.
right? And then I ended with shame-based feelings. I'm not enough. I've done something wrong, etc. And I have letter Z as the focus that we want to end with that creates the hope. I'll leave that as a cliffhanger. That's a heck of a list when you really look at
Mhm.
real specific problems. And I want to talk about real and specific solutions, right?
Yeah. But, another thing, did you mention natural disasters, for
I did
example?
not. That
Yeah,
could be a
and
legit Z.
because of the tsunami that was horrific back on Christmas time. It was almost 20 years ago now, and it killed over 300,000 people, a lot of loss.
Wow. That's a lot.
Also in the U.S., if you get the warm fronts going during that time, you get the tornadoes,
Hmm.
and a lot of houses and trailers are destroyed, a lot of property, a lot of lives lost.
Not only mention house fires with heaters and stuff
Hmm.
that are in the house. I mean,
Right.
stuff really happens. And when something happens, that clicks into your memory. And when you get to future Christmases, you remember those memories. It's
Hmm.
amazing
Yeah.
the way the
You
psychology of
had
that works.
the loved ones who died on Christmas, or around
Yes.
Christmas. Yeah.
Right. Right. It's a powerful, powerful source of sadness and renewed grief for people. And these things are all riding around in our mind. And so, how do we deal with this? I know there's a lot on my list, and I almost feel like each one of them can be a whole show note. But so I just kind of thought, like, what kind of immediate thoughts? Let's take a snapshot and what we might be able to suggest for these types of things. Does that sound like we could do a
Hmm.
rapid fire, guys, and then kind of
Yeah.
talk about all that we were thinking about while we went through? How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The first one that came onto my list in my mind was addiction and relapse. Because as a substance abuse professional, I've thought about that a lot and I've worked with that a lot. Like, I would say the recovering community really does a good job of really kind of wrapping around as a community and
Hmm.
as a culture to kind of help people, maintain their sobriety through this tough time. Have either of you guys dealt much with John? I think you've talked about addiction. What would
Yeah.
you say to the recovering community?
Oh, well, this is it's interesting that what I say is you need to be with your mentor, your sponsor rather, also have that great support. One of the people's that in the religious services, for example, even if they're not actively involved with AA, that they would participate in a community aspect so that they're not by themselves and isolated or self-isolating. Um, that's just kind of what I would say.
That's what comes in my mind first as well, John. And I think that with this rapid fire, what comes in our mind first, because we deal with all of these issues, and I'm thinking community, community, community. You don't be isolated alone, be with the group. And
Uh,
that works really,
uh,
really
uh,
well.
And that's one of the things that where I've seen when people have their slips or their relapses, and hopefully it's just a slip, but when they have their relapses, is that they do not reach out to their sponsors, they do not reach out to their community. And if you have to go to 10 AA meetings, do it.
Absolutely. All day long. They have
Absolutely all
meetings
day.
and groups that last all day. It's,
Right.
it's wonderful. And
Because
it's a good time.
yeah,
They
and if
have
you
a
and if you
blast.
think you can do this by yourself, you're deluding yourself, and so
That's good.
you're setting yourself up to relapse.
Victoria, do you have any thoughts about that? Because I don't know that you work with addiction as much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still pretty new or early on, I guess, if you could say, in working with
Yeah.
addiction. I mean, I would just second everything that John said. I mean, I would tell clients basically the same thing: lean on your support system, don't go at it alone, take precautions, I mean, you can like set yourself up for success.
I think
Yeah,
interestingly enough, to transition, Victoria, deal with a whole lot more, right? Is depression. It's the
yeah,
second one on my list in our rapid fire
Hmm.
because I think it's a similar solution. What say you?
So, yeah,
yeah.
support, find the happy, try to replace, I think a lot of these things that we have on this list can be just like replacing bad experiences with positive ones. And so, like, yeah, finding the happy, finding the joy where you can, when you can. Um,
Yeah.
and again, not letting yourself spiral, lean on your support system, all those things.
Work work with your anger because
Mm.
I think in terms of depression that a lot of anger and depression are the same coin. It's just opposite sides. They're same
Ooh,
thing. Yeah.
that's an expression. Anger and depression are on the same coin,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. For me, it really, I thought that was a similar thing with the addiction just because of the idea of it being really into the need to not isolate.
Yeah.
Really,
Hmm.
it is very similar in that regard to addiction in the holidays because depression, you want to isolate anyway. I've said
Hmm.
many times over that isolation is enemy number one for depression.
Hmm.
So you think you want to be alone and just not deal with the stress, avoid the stores, do all of that. Oh, that is a recipe for not good when it comes to
Hmm.
depression. We want to do the exact opposite. Okay. Rapid fire. I think we're doing pretty good. Social phobia. What about that with all these crowds, all of these holidays, all of these stuff that's going on? How do you deal with that when you have real experience with that specific type of anxiety?
Amazon.
Yeah. Amazon is your friend, that's for
I
Yeah.
sure.
mean, like, I think it's the same, like, it's the same, like, advocating for yourself. If you know, like, it's okay to put yourself out there and try to break through the phobia, but if it has a really strong hold on you, like, try to avoid those situations. Like, if you don't like big crowds, like, order all your Christmas presents online, like, or do like Target drive up pickup, which is one of my personal favorites. Like, there's alternatives for still being able to participate in the holidays without having to like succumb to your phobia.
Yeah. Well, one of the
Interesting.
one of the things that I think, because I deal, work with veterans that have developed significant PTSD, and part of that, there's an anger at God that something bad happened, horrible things happened, but people don't want to be in a church service. The other aspect is that fear that comes over someone having to be with a large group. And one of the things that I've suggested to some of my clients, and I think that, and some of them taken it up and were successful, is that instead of having to go up front and meet people, they sit in the back of the pew in the back of the church, and there's people there, there's activities going there, or let's say synagogue, and then they're able to actually worship communally, and at the same time not have to be so stressed out that they have to meet everybody, and they can leave before the end of the service. And
Well, it's interesting. I love that. I don't want to disagree with you, Victoria, but I was listening to you and thinking, and John, I think you're saying something similar, but be there and engage, but in a different way. Yeah, in therapy, when it comes to social phobia and anxiety, the idea oftentimes is you immerse yourself and really try to work towards
Mhm.
engaging that, and that can be hard. I was actually thinking what came to my mind first when I was thinking about this listening to you guys is sort of different from don't isolate, engage with anxiety or with depression and or substance abuse. To me, what occurs to me is definitely don't isolate and don't engage. That is a fight for somebody that has anxiety, though. We need to realize that.
Mhm.
But instead, make sure that people, or at least somebody in that community, knows that that's the case. Yeah, John's clapping on YouTube,
Mhm.
right? So that person can be an advocate and aid, a help to you, and you can leave if you need to.
Mhm.
They'll escort you out, or we'll work together on that. I think that's an important part.
Well, yeah, and I think I say a lot
Does that make
about
sense?
yeah, and I think with like what I say, it's more like I know the holidays are a lot, and so there are other opportunities for you to like immerse yourself in like conquering your phobia, but like you don't I think you don't always have to like choose to do it during the holidays because they're already
Mhm.
stressful like on top of it with everything else that we experience throughout the holidays for the most
Gotcha.
part.
So,
And
so
so
you're
like
giving permission
I,
for
I
people to really have that struggle.
and I
yeah,
And I believe in a gentle landing. So that's why I said that sort of
Right.
in between the two is that they're able
right.
to reach out. There's a great Tom Petty song, Refugee. You don't have to live like a refugee. You
Love
can,
that.
yeah, yeah, you can be a part of something greater than yourself.
See, now we're getting a groove with this virtual stuff. We
Yeah.
just incorporated the song earlier.
Yeah.
Failed a little bit, but that was perfect, John. All right, new family experiences, newlyweds, and I'm going to blend in blended family issues and things that happen. When you talked about blended families and step parenting, gosh,
Hmm.
there's a plethora of challenges that
Hmm.
people have with these different extended family members and these different new situations that you encounter. I mean, there's just a lot. And I think what I want to kind of say that comes to my mind with this that people are struggling with is this is a perfect reframe. Like, yes, it's new. And in that newness of all that you've got going on that's new, there's a wonderful opportunity to create new traditions, new routines, new experiences, new fun, new hope, new
Hmm.
joy. It's a lot new, but new doesn't have to be bad. That's what occurs to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say boundaries. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Like, you can as a semi newlywed, I guess. I mean, 4 years, I guess the newest one out of all of us. Like you kind of
Yes,
have to,
indeed.
yeah, you kind of have to like set your boundaries and say, like I am informing my family, for example, that this year, this is the last year that we will be traveling on Christmas Day. Like next year, I will be staying at my house with my kid and my husband on Christmas Day, and
Yep.
I'm not traveling all over North and South Carolina to like see everybody. We can do
I'm
things,
jumping out of my skin because I did the
yeah,
same thing. I'm like,
we
look,
can
this is
do
the way
things
it's
other
going.
days, but like Christmas Day, I want to wake up like in my own house in my PJs with my small family and like enjoy our time together without having to worry about like throwing everybody in a
All
car
that stuff.
and
It's
driving.
new, it's
Yeah,
exciting and fun, right?
yeah, boundaries.
Yeah. John, what do you say?
Oh, I would say ditto on that. We did it a little differently, but when our kids were of age, like kids, the Santa Claus stage, we we celebrated Christmas at our home, and my wife's mother would come and join us with the unwrapping of the presents. And my mother didn't, but we did that later uh, because everybody was in town at that time. But it was something where you develop your own traditions,
Yeah.
and that's very, very important. And to respect those traditions so that the kids will have a good experience. And I'm assuming kids will say, "This is what my experience was," and adds to that positive experience.
Yeah.
And
I'm
if you,
saying new
yeah,
and fun, new
yeah,
and energizing, not
right,
new and bad, new and loss, right?
yeah, and blended families, I know that that's very, very difficult, and I think it's very incumbent upon the partner, the spouse of let's say the step parents and that sort of thing, that everybody would be on the same team. I know that doesn't always happen. Reality is such that it doesn't. But if you can make it as positive as possible, remember it's not about you, it's about your family, your children. So,
Let's combine together a little bit. What happens in hospitals? Sicknesses don't plan the date, I wrote, and mental health hospitals are just the
yeah.
same. The reality that nurses out there, man, that's another one. Work. I didn't have that on my list, right?
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
sometimes work is a distress and a source of the harm and struggle.
Chris, I've worked
Yeah,
all my career as a pastor. I mean,
right.
as a chaplain and as a pastor, I've done these Christmas shifts, and people are kind of really lonely. They're difficult, and especially if somebody is that that you're, let's say, a young mother nurse, and you are nurse's aide or CNA rather, assistant, then you're also having to deal with, I can't be with my kids.
Right.
I can't be with my spouse or my partner. So it's
I don't
difficult.
know what, it's interesting. It's a tough one. What is the solution here? I think the solution is maybe occurs to me of getting an openness to shift as you need to work a shift, right?
Hmm.
Like it doesn't have to be the
Hmm.
way everyone else does it. You can celebrate Christmas on, the 26th
That's
or the
what we did.
24th, right? Yeah, I mean that's okay, but I think people get so rigid.
Hmm. No, it doesn't have to be Christmas. It did Christmas Day. It could be the Boxing Day, the 26th, or it could be Christmas Eve. So that's good. That's
Yeah.
what we did when sometimes it would take us a little while when we were stationed in the Philippines. And if we happened to get to the States, it was hard to get there. And if we did, it might be a day late. But so family, we all did a big family gathering on the 26th instead of the 25th.
And just to make this even real, I'm going to share. I think I've said, I'm super proud of Adam, my son, who is currently in boot camp. Like, we're not going to have him for Christmas this
Yeah.
year. It's just, we're just not.
Yay,
We'll be able to
Adam.
talk on the phone. I know, right? Thanks, John.
He
We're going to
needs
be
to
able to
talk to
talk on
the
the
chaplain if he's got an
Yeah, yeah,
issue.
probably,
Yeah,
probably so. But we're
yeah,
gonna do FaceTime and this and that. But my
yeah.
big point is guys, we kind of celebrated Christmas on Thanksgiving.
Uh-huh.
Now, I mean, that
Yeah,
might be like a bummer still, but I really
yeah,
enjoyed that. We got him his record player. He's all into records now and vinyl, and it was a new hobby of his, and that was so pleasurable. It wasn't Christmas. It's not going to be Christmas Day, and I'm not saying I'm happy about that, but it's okay. Is the main
You can
point.
be
Victoria, what do you,
flexible.
yeah.
flexible? Yeah, what are you thinking, Victoria? Hospitals and
Um,
workers
my
and this type of thing.
my mom always says that that the ER is busiest on holidays and weekends.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
so like don't go getting hurt on the holidays and the weekends. But yeah, I think it's just about being flexible and knowing that like how I gave with my example earlier, how, I'm spending Christmas Day next year with my family at home. Like we're going to be flexible and we're going to find another day to celebrate Christmas with our families, the in-laws and everything. So I think it's very similar to workers, who are not just in hospitals and, mental health hospitals, but anybody that has to work on Christmas Day, wherever, like, or Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, like, just because everybody else in the world is celebrating it or who celebrates Christmas does it on the 25th doesn't mean that you have to.
Hmm. Yeah.
absolutely.
What?
Uh,
I'm
Go ahead, John.
sorry. Well, when I was again going in the Navy, and I'm so proud of Adam, is that overseas is that we had Sunday or Christmas morning services. We did that, and then after we celebrated Christmas with the kids on base, I went and I would go and sit with all the people that were having to do duty, and I'd go to the mess and have Christmas dinner with them, and they appreciated that. Or I'd go to the brig and I'd visit with the brig people, and
John, you're
that's
such a sweet soul. Honest to goodness, I'm so glad that you worked with
I
the
wish
travel and the veteran.
therapists could do that.
Yeah,
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 because yeah, so
yeah.
it's
It's
so
awesome.
important. Yeah,
It's crucial. It's
yeah.
really, it's just how much love and kindness can you give rather than receive on
Mhm.
Christmas? How about that as a little bit of a solution
Yeah,
highlight?
yeah,
So, let's take a
definitely.
quick break, and I want to mention two things. One, if you're following on YouTube Live, pop in the comments. What is your struggle that people have, and we'll answer it if we're not answering it. Also, we really want you to click the subscribe button on YouTube. So that's an ask that we have. Click the subscribe button. Moving along though, travel stress and financial
Oh
distress.
God.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hmm.
Um, Boy, what's the answer? What's the solution? What's the cure for I-85 here in town
That's
on the holidays?
or I-95 going to
Avoid,
Florida. Yeah.
Oh,
avoid
Avoid.
it.
95 is terrible.
Yeah.
77 is awful.
If you can, I would say just planning for travel, but also like, did you say financial too?
I did.
For financial, I've been mentioning this with a couple of my clients, is it's funny how all year long we know that Christmas is going to happen. Like all
Yes.
year long it's going to happen, but yet people don't start like financially planning for Christmas until like Thanksgiving or right before Thanksgiving. And you're like, okay,
Right.
well, back in April, you knew that you were going to buy like this $300 treadmill or
Yeah.
whatever for your cousin, and like
Yep.
you can save throughout the year, like
You got a
That's a
budget.
three.
You got a
That is
budget.
a $300 clothes rack. Yeah.
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 That's what they tend to be, John. I
But
agree.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like on both aspects, financial and travel. I think it's just planning. Like, you can, if you're traveling and you're able to travel like 2 days before Christmas, where traffic might be a little bit easier, or less or whatever, like, figure out if there's an easier way,
Hmm.
back roads, whatever. Same thing with financial. Like,
Yeah.
you can plan and save throughout the year so that way when Christmas comes around, you're able to like financially support your daily bills and necessities, but also like get the things you want for other people for Christmas.
And not everybody has that ability to plan. We
Right.
and understand that, but the kids shouldn't have to suffer. I think there's some sense that as much one may feel pride, there's nothing wrong with going to Salvation Army or Samaritan's Purse or Angel
Oh, I love
Tree,
that.
which is all of
Mhm.
those things, and take advantage of those services. Toys for Tots, for example, done by the best branch of the service other than the Navy, the Marine Corps, which is so important that
Mhm.
people are
And
able
John, I
to.
think the thing is to allow that. Like I hear you saying, like part of what I was thinking when you were talking, Victoria, is to give yourself the allowance of that flexibility.
Permission.
And John,
Yeah.
you're adding, yes, the permission, the allowance, like lose the feelings and be careful about that taking over because so many people just ban themselves from help that's out there,
Mhm.
John.
Yeah. And that's and so there's that isolation that takes.
There it is
Give
again.
you an example. Was that there was in Florida last year? Remember the Christmas cold snap that we had,
Mhm.
and it
Hmm.
was the coldest. Even though there's global warming and all of that, it was probably one of the coldest Christmases
Hmm.
that was there in Florida. And I remember riding I'd take my bike down and at my parents, and then I ride it to Planet Fitness. And I went to, there was a homeless woman, and she had severe psychiatric issues. And I asked her if there was a way that we could help her. And it was just this horrible example where she was so closed off from because she needed to be warm, she needed shelter, and she was refusing it. And
Mhm.
if in this case the woman had such severe mental illness that she wasn't able to receive that help, but that is if there's any time that a person can go out and ask for help, it's Christmas, it's the holidays, and
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
yeah.
Give permission, allow yourself. Absolutely. We mentioned grief and prior losses. I mean, that really is a whole show. It's what people are experiencing a lot, and we covered military families with some of the grief and change with new experiences. I don't know, guys. This is kind of a big one. It's a heavy hitter, and I
Mhm.
think that I would refer everyone to our shows that we talked about grief because I don't know. Is this the big one? Is this the
Yeah.
Mac Daddy during the holidays?
I think so. I don't know.
Especially I think if you're a parent and you had a child die,
Yeah.
anywhere near Christmas Day or a birthday is
Well, and I
Nor
think
any
it's
day for that
or a
matter,
religious
honestly.
day. Yeah.
I also think it's more along the lines of if this is the first Christmas that you're experiencing without them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like they just passed this year, and this is the first Christmas without them. I think that's typically like when it's I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for everybody's grief, but
Actually, I want to
that
jump
tends to
in,
be when
Victoria.
it
I want to jump in because I learned something from my friend who I've mentioned on the show several times, Aaron, who
yeah,
lost his 13-year-old son. And he actually said, the second year is harder than the first. I'd never
Yeah.
heard that before. I don't think it
really.
gets easier. Yeah, people oftentimes fall into the trap of not even just like saying, you know what, the heck with the holidays, we're not celebrating them. And you know what, I want to give permission for that as well. Like, that's okay if that's where
Mhm.
you land. There,
Hmm.
there are no hard and fast rules here. But there is loss that you have to deal with, and this forces it at you.
I would
Go ahead,
agree
John.
with that. Mine's been from my own experience in doing a lot of the grief counseling is that there's a lot of attention paid the first year.
Yeah,
There is.
And then
There is.
and then boom,
then it starts
you're
hitting.
left. Then it starts to because you don't have that. You can't rely on that support group anymore. And people mean well, but then they don't. Uh, like I had one woman say to one of my clients, well, and it was her sister, and she said, "Well, I can't deal with you anymore because you're too broken."
Oh boy,
Yeah, yeah.
ouch.
And so she felt
Ooh.
ultimately, yeah.
That's a rough
So,
one.
so I think if it's a very bad time, you dial and try to reach out. If you feel like you can't talk to somebody, dial 988. I believe, is that what it
Hmm.
is?
Yep, that's what
988.
you can
Yeah.
text or call.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, go more, Victoria, what that is.
Well, okay, so 988 is the National Suicide and Crisis Hotline. Now, I think they released it maybe about like 2 years ago now,
No,
or
it's
year or
only
two.
been within the last year. Yeah.
Has it? Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
new.
within the
July
last
Yeah, it's
year,
new.
and
2022. Yeah.
yeah, and so you can call or text it. So they created 988 because it's a lot easier to remember, like 911, rather than a 10-digit phone number, which I think is what it was before.
It
So
was
now you can, yeah, now you can dial 988, you can text or call, and there's a professional on the phone or someone ready to talk to you. And I think that's great because especially during the holidays, we don't always have people that we can talk to
hmm
or that we feel comfortable talking to, or even sometimes we don't want to talk on the phone. Like sometimes I just want to, I can't verbally say it, but I can text it.
hmm
And
Love that.
so, and
Absolutely. And it
it's
works,
free.
guys.
Yeah.
It is free. It's anywhere in the country. I called them on the way to West Virginia on a road trip just to see what would happen on I-77 in the hills of West Virginia, and
Did
somebody was there to take my call. I loved it.
yeah? Did
Good.
the
Yeah.
state trooper pull you over on the turnpike?
They did not,
Did
sir.
not.
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
They
Lucky.
did not. All right, here's a little bit of a different one, but still, maybe a little bit funner than, that grief and loss is a heavy one. Um, Heavy. Get that? Weight issues,
hmm
weight distress, concerns about nutrition and weight. Like, people don't think about that, but
No, yeah. Oh, yeah.
boy, that one gets you, right, Victoria?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially if you're someone who like already struggles with weight. And I feel like
Hmm.
it's not fair that Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's are all like right,
Right now.
right, and it like row
Yeah.
together, and it's like food, and so and beer and wine and alcohol and like all these other things that like make you feel bloated and like make you gain weight, and you're like, I'm just trying to have fun and like have my cake and eat it too, and
Literally.
again, I think, and could be wrong, but I think again, when I say like planning, I think a lot of it goes like you need to make sure you're not depriving yourself of fun, but also like I think just planning, like what you're going to eat, incorporating exercise still like in a healthy way.
New tradition, routines wrapped around this. Yeah, I think that is the
Uh-huh.
case. I've
Yeah.
worked with Cirilla, our lovely nutritionist, and she actually helped me understand, like, you can make a huge vegetable based plate. Like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, I don't know why, because you get so rich into these traditions, and it just adds to the problem that you're already having. And so, yeah, let yourself create, let yourself have fun with it.
Yeah.
Well, like,
It's
and like, I,
go ahead.
sorry, John.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So it's like when you make a salad and you add your tomatoes and your cranberries and your feta cheese or whatever you're adding, and then you add your dressing. Well, the amount of dressing that you add does not take away the nutritional value of the lettuce and the tomatoes and the healthy
Right.
Uh-huh.
things that you already put in your salad. Like those still have nutritional value. So I think just like it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you can work with it, and if you need help, yeah, like reach out. If you need help planning, like reach out to someone like Cirilla who can help you like prep and prepare for the holidays in a healthy like
Yeah.
nutritional way.
But food and guilt kind of work together, and
And
a
Mm,
lot of
shame.
times, and shame. And so one of the things is when I was growing up is I tended to be a little, they put me in the husky genes, that sort of thing. So I'm I graduated out of that, but I would have one of the my grandparents who she would make the most rich desserts and food, and then she'd say, "Are you having too much?" or something like that. So so
Ah.
what I've learned over the years of having is for me is I give myself buy days, and a buy day would be Christmas, and I don't feel guilty at all on
Love that.
Christmas. And then what I do is I step down and I don't have to eat all those leftovers the day after. Those leftovers are going to be good for 3 or 4 days, and I can eat them a little bit at a time afterwards and not have to
Only
gain
three
weight.
or 4 days?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
go maybe a couple weeks, man.
yeah.
Chicken is still edible. I don't know.
Okay.
Call me
Chris,
crazy. Victoria, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
You
he's
got to finish my
no,
plate, my mama said.
no,
no.
no. Your leftovers are not good for that long, and I'm putting
All
my
right,
finger on
Yeah.
listen,
you.
let's move on since I've
So
outed
if
myself.
Sorella's listening, she's probably
My
just
gosh.
Upset with me.
yeah, put it in pit.
Relationship estrangements, divorce, and I'm throwing in empty nest. Like, these are things we've mentioned already a little bit, but I think I would clump them into like, look, yes, things are different, and
Mhm.
allowing yourself the permission to create new things. It isn't just a silly cognitive reframe that I'm throwing out from a therapist's brain. I'm saying, like, it really is legit. Things really are
Mhm.
different. And the beauty is you get to create newness in that different. And I want to get excited about that. I want to encourage people to revel in that and make the day what it is that you want to be. Staying present is
Mhm.
an important piece of that.
I
Yeah.
agree. Also, I mean, the holidays are a great time to like rekindle relationships, to mend those broken bridges,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I mean, a lot of times we do, even though we look at the holidays as stressful, they are a time of like joy and being kind and being forgiving and providing grace to yourself and like other people. So I think also,
Mhm.
it's a great time to reach out to those estranged relationships and possibly, heal
Yeah.
them and like be able to move forward.
I
Yeah.
love that. I hadn't thought of that. That's why I think our initial impressions are kind of cool in this rapid fire thing. That's really awesome, Victoria. It's totally part of the new. You can revisit the old and establish those reconnections. I love that.
Self-acceptance in the sense that you have maybe you run into people. I run into people all the time. Here's an old Dan Fogelberg song because they don't write them like they used to, but it's Same Old Side by Dan Fogelberg, and it was where he meets a former lover on after Christmas. And they go through, he had all these emotions and bitterness and sadness and innocence. And he said, we drank a
Mm.
toast to innocence. We drank a toast to time, reliving in our eloquence another old lang syne. And just for a moment, I was back at school and I felt that old familiar pain. And as I turned to make my way back home, the snow turned into rain. And so it shows the transitions. And I think,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. So I think,
Transitions is a good word there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because that's the whole new year too.
Right.
So maybe we need to do something on the new year because I'd asked people about resolutions uh, this year, and a lot of my clients they said I don't do resolutions. I don't want to disappoint myself.
Right.
But there's a chance that maybe you can make a change that's positive, and that
With
you can do.
divorce, you're renewing some things. With relationship
Mhm,
estrangements, Victoria, you kind of said, you have a renew. And empty nesting, though it's sad the kids are leaving, we have that this year. I mean, Adam's in boot camp. That one's near and dear to my heart right now. But, there's also newness in that. So you can renew and have new.
mhm.
I love the transitions. It's
Yeah,
life and its transitions is real. Yeah.
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 Speaking of,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's move on to before we run out of time. I want to get to a couple of these other things, right? Religious prosecution, and I developed the idea of war. In the world that we have nowadays, like, goodness gracious, the
Or what it's good for,
reality of
absolutely nothing.
things in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Edwin Starr. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so
Go ahead. Yeah.
no, no, no. Ahead. What you're talking about religious persecution? especially with folks of Judaism right now.
Yeah.
The and this is
Yeah,
the pro.
and we Ramadan, and I don't think any group of people is left out of that, and I think that
Hmm.
there's a certain amount of safety that you have to kind of think about, but you know what? It's okay to celebrate your faith tradition. It's
Hmm.
okay
Hmm.
to feel good about that, and that's hard to stand in the face of that sometimes.
Hmm.
So again, it gets back to like give yourself permission.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So here's another, I think, big kind of reality that people struggle with, which is caretaking roles in
Hmm.
nursing homes.
Yeah.
And you mentioned older people, John, with disabilities that kind of come up. This is kind of another big one too,
Yeah.
and it touches on that grief and loss thing that I think just cycling our thoughts around this. I mean that's the Mac Daddy. I feel like grief
Hmm.
and loss, and this is a specific in that nature. I mean, Mama's in the nursing home, Daddy's in the unavailable. This is all different, and people really struggle with that. What do y'all think about that off the cuff?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, remember, like
That's a tough one, isn't
inclusion,
it?
yeah, inclusion, like making sure that those people are not forgotten just because, and I think again, just because everyone else does things on the 25th does not mean you have to do things on the 25th.
There we
Like,
go again, right?
and you can go to, Billy Sue's nursing home on the 27th and open gifts. Like, it's
Hmm.
still going to be as
Yeah.
meaningful as, as if you did it on the 25th. Like,
So
uh,
in other words, instead of cramming everything into one day, and that puts a lot of stress, but
right.
there's also that having to deal with one's own mortality, because I think when somebody sees a loved one who's uh, having dementia, for example, and it's a long, slow goodbye, that
Oh boy.
yeah, it's very difficult, um, and that you might have trouble, let's say, with your loved one who doesn't recognize you anymore, thinks that you're her mother or his mother, and
It's a
and
tough one.
yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, and
And I guess I hear us really kind of saying, again, getting back to that, we get so steeped in tradition, we get so
mhm.
steeped in the way that it's supposed to be, that we fail to give ourselves again
Yeah,
that
grace,
real
yeah,
permission, that grace. Yes,
right.
talk about grace, John.
Yeah. Grace is sort of like that it's that unconditional love that one receives from God, a higher power, or from other people. It's that openness to be able to say, okay, or one gives to oneself, and that is, I don't have to have all the answers. I'm a human being. I'm sharing in this human experience, and I'm making myself vulnerable, and I'm also letting down some of my guards and allowing myself to be vulnerable, to receive a gift that is not necessarily merited. It's unmerited in many cases, and that it's okay. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to,
Yeah.
show yourself as being superior or anything like that. Um, you don't have to see yourself as inferior. You can actually just be, and that's grace. Living in grace.
I love that, Grace, John, and it relates to the listing of trauma effects on,
Hmm.
especially with family, and then domestic violence when you're living in a circumstance where you're not certain about your safety. The grace, I am hearing some themes, right?
Hmm.
The avoid isolation, the give yourself permission concept. When you're dealing with trauma, particularly
Hmm.
of families, it might be sexual trauma, or you got to be around the cousin who actually perpetrated the trauma. There's all
Oh
sorts of
yeah.
things that kind of pop up with people, right? Like, it's okay to say no. I don't want to be present.
Hmm.
Boundaries, right?
Yeah.
It's
It's a
it's
complete
it.
sentence.
And
Go ahead, Victoria. What's that?
No is a complete sentence.
yeah. You don't have to
Yes.
explain. Yeah.
Right. You can just
Hey.
say no. Like, if someone someone asks, "Hey, are you attending Christmas this year?" No. Next topic. Like, next question.
I love that. I love that. And again, we're giving you permission to say, sometimes it sounds silly that you don't really realize it's okay to do this or that, or have a different plan, or stay in a hotel instead of your family's house. Like
That's what we're doing
that
this year. That's
can
what we're
be
doing.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to Greenville, South Carolina to see my husband's family. And I said, like, we're getting a hotel in downtown.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're
And
not staying at anybody's house. Not
and
that we don't love them. And yeah, it's
sometimes
like,
people might be upset with that, and sometimes
yeah,
people, but and there we deal with conflict and domestic violence. This is a
boundaries
pretty big conflict. You know,
and
boundaries
boundaries.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one for you. How about unemployment? Occurred to me on
Oh,
my
yeah.
list. Oh, does that not hit your heart in the holiday?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, there's a tradition that in the States here is that people are let off at the end of the year and they're terminated or fired
We
or,
do have
I
that
mean,
tendency, don't we?
God, man, that is so cruel. Yeah,
Yeah, like Happy New Year,
Crazy.
you're
Yeah.
fired.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Here's your lump of
how bad
coal.
is
I
that?
wonder.
Yeah,
I wonder if
yeah.
that's a thing around the world too. If that's just a states business, because you're
Hmm.
right, John. I mean, in the states, we do that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's gosh, why
Well, and it's so
why I
funny
don't
because
know.
a lot of businesses will hire more for the holidays
Uh-huh.
just to like let people go after the holidays end.
Yeah.
And I
Listen, I
get
think
like
we
I get seasonal people, like retail specifically
Like
hires, and
UPS,
they'll
for
yeah,
example,
like,
Amazon. Yeah.
and they tell you up front, like, hey, we just need you for the holidays.
Hmm.
Like, so you're going in with the expectation that you're not going
yeah,
to
that's a
continue
little
after the
different.
holiday. But yeah, and unfortunately, I think also the unemployment provides a lot of like financial stress if you are going into the holidays unemployed and you haven't necessarily planned to be able to support yourself during the holidays. Because, I mean, if you think about it, the amount of money you spend on your regular gifts, but then you have like the white elephant parties, you have the like, you got to cook for parties, and then that costs food, and
You
like,
let the white elephant party in our at our office, didn't you? And so everybody got to get gifts and all of that. So
yeah,
Years
no, we
ago.
had this.
yeah, at our
Yeah.
office, I made that up. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, we didn't exchange gifts, but
we've been a participant of that.
Victoria got a Charlie Brown uh Christmas tree.
No, that is Chris's. That's
Chris,
Chris's tree.
is
Mine is
that
the
I
one. Mine is the full tree out in the
uh
lobby.
oh, okay.
I got to take credit for that, John. I'm not the Mr. Decorator guy, but that Charlie Brown Christmas tree I've had with Metrolina for a long time.
Uh
I love that
yeah,
Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
yeah. It's
Listen,
wonderful.
it's interesting summarizing a little bit here, guys. It's funny, just personally. I think that as we go down through this list, I thought of a few of them. It's like, oh boy, restrained relationships and military family. That's what I am now. And, empty nest and, and elder care. It's like, there's these different things that, like, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a few of them on the list.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, and that's okay. Like, the thing that I want to make the loudest point here is I enjoy the holidays. Like, I'm in good spirits generally, even though I had multiples of what we've listed out here today. Then and I think it's because, honestly, you have to really work at managing your own emotion,
Hmm.
like managing your own emotional reality. And we
Hmm.
could all talk for hours on that. Just a simple small example, one of the small things I've done over the years is I made a deal with myself, like, look, on the holiday day, wherever I happen to be, I'm going to take a nap. If I just lay down for a half an hour, that's going to be my gift to myself. And I actually don't carry that out anymore because I don't need to. But I think the point I'm making is, you may have multiple things on this list. This is manageable. It's a wonderful time of year, but and you have to
Yeah.
manage your own emotional realities. In what ways work for you? Does that make sense, guys?
It does. And I'm thinking too, not it's because I'm somebody who's very emotional and I cry and all of that, but I don't do it like I used to when I was a young adult, I would have those highs and those lows, and I miss the deep, deep emotion of joy of Christmas. I
Yeah,
miss that, but I don't miss the sadness that was there, the downside.
yeah.
I like more of the even keel nature as the older I've gotten. And then I'm able to see things in perspective a lot better. And in one way,
I get that. I get
I
that.
enjoy Christmas more
Yeah,
now than I did 40 years ago.
I think I can really see that, and that's developing for me too, as well. Victoria,
I think
what are you thinking over there?
I'm thinking that you've got to find the joy where you can and the positives where you can. I've been actually talking to a lot of my clients this week about that in relations to like self-care and stuff. But I think it can work great in the holidays. Like, yes, parts of the holidays suck, you know, that's just the fact. But if you can find joy when you can, like for example, I actually enjoy wrapping gifts. Like I would much rather wrap something than like throw it in a bag with some tissue paper. And so I'm in charge of wrapping all the gifts in my house because like I actually like that brings me joy. I like doing it and I don't necessarily see it as a task, as a burden. I am thoroughly enjoy wrapping gifts. And so, like, I think it's about finding the joy where you can, and they don't have to be big things. Like, it can be little things.
Absolutely.
I've talked a lot about uh, in the past hour about creative things. It's a great time, Christmas and the
Yeah.
Hmm.
holidays. And I think Eid was at one time around Christmas, and then of course with Hanukkah, is you could be creative. And you can go to
Mm.
concerts and you could go to plays. You could do some things that are very affordable. You could go and walk in nature and be in that time and really develop your spirituality during this time. So,
And Christmas
Well, and
lights.
I
See
agree.
Christmas
Christmas
lights.
lights for sure. Listen, I focused on my thought, of really remembering as they the reason for the season, and obviously that you could think of Jesus in the religious kind of components of that, but you can also think of connecting with the people that you're in relationship with and relating to. So the reason for the season, is a good focus point, and that's a joyous occasion with where, as you said, Victoria, you find that joy, and it doesn't have to be in the traditional spaces and places or ways that is what
So you're saying
taught you're supposed to do.
make meaning
So,
and
Yes.
live meaning. Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
make meaning and live meaning. I love that. That yeah,
Mhm.
you did a thank you for taking my thoughts and putting
I'm
it
sorry.
into that framework. That is a perfect gift wrapped ending. I think make meaning and live meaning. Um, Listen, the holidays really, as John said, they're a beautiful time. They're a wonderful time in many ways. There are struggles, and we created a long list and talked about really specific things that you can do, and that's just tipping of the iceberg. Get help. Don't be alone. Reach out. 988. It really is a time for families and fun and joy and creativity and permission and newness and new beginnings, and especially thinking about New Year's. So, listen. Have a great holiday season. We're in the middle of it. I hope you had or have a wonderful holiday. Guys, we'll be staying with you. We'll be here, I believe, next week, and we just bid you a Merry Christmas and soon to be a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas and
Merry
happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Yes. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, a blessing, Happy Hanukkah, and and God bless.
Take care, guys. We'll see you
Thank
next week.
thank you.